everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So, before we dive into today's episode, which is me really breaking down just some of my thoughts around this Brynn and Ubah situation in New York and this sort of Bronwyn, Lisa, by proxy, Whitney situation in Salt Lake City. So, I'm not necessarily going to review anything. I'm going to give my thoughts on what I think is going on, what I think Bravo did wrong, and sort of my opinion and hot takes that might be a little unpopular, but you guys, it's the Candy Cane crew. This is where you come to agree to disagree, to share your thoughts. And remember, I just want to say a quick disclaimer. We're going to be talking about very heavy topics, miscarriages, sexual assault, someone being raped, and racism, colorism. These are very, very heavy topics. I'm going to try to cover them with as much love and light and grace and openness as possible. So just wanted to give that disclaimer because there's a lot of heavy things going on with the housewives. So before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. It is a free and fun and easy way to support me and the show, and I really appreciate it. Shout out to Tay the Savior. Shout out to Darren. What is up? That's right, you guys. As you come into the room, be sure to say hi, where you're listening from, what are your thoughts, and everyone is always welcomed. So with that, let's dive right on in. So let's start with the elephant in the room, which I really think is, let me get this slide real quick. Da-da-da. Oh, wait, 1 second. I gotta download it, you guys. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I have it, you guys. Okay, so let's start with the elephant in the room, which I really think is Ubah and Brynn. Okay, this is where I think the biggest conversation is going with Ubah versus Brynn. Now, I don't want to break it down in a way of whose team are you on? Are you team Ubah? Are you team Brynn? Because these situations are so dark that I don't really think it's like a team situation. But I do think that it's worth discussing what I think Bravo did wrong and what I think they should have done. Okay. I think that Bravo, after the finale that we saw of New York, which, cliff notes, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, Ubah and Brynn, who have been beefing and fighting and feuding this entire season, sort of have a climax fight where there's accusations being thrown. Ubah's like, you slept your way to get this job. And Brynn is like, you are a model for Dress Barn. Like, the insults don't match up, you know what I mean? But they're insulting, they're going back and forth. Then Brynn kind of has a breakdown and she's like, I was, essayed and this is really hitting home for me. I'm in group therapy trying to get over it. And Ubah knows this. And she says this to me. The whole group kind of goes, oh my gosh, Ubah's horrible. How dare she say this? Turns out Brynn is like, well, maybe she didn't actually clock it when I said it. I was really upset. So I'm not 100% sure if she really knew or she didn't know. I'm not sure. Then the whole group is like all shocked. Brynn is so horrible. She's so evil. And now the whole group is shunning Brynn. That's basically the clip notes, right? Okay. Now, this is what I think Bravo should have did after that. They should not have gone into shooting the stills and the promo material for the upcoming season, which they did. If you watch the Peacock extended episode, I don't know what aired on Bravo because I don't pay for Bravo. I just watched it on Peacock. They showed how, 10 days after they got back from Puerto Rico, no one's really talking to Brynn. She's on the outs. They do this sort of whole photo shoot or whatever, and fast forward to now, no one's still talking to Brynn even after the reunion. I think Bravo should have, after that finale, before the reunion, they should have had all the women come and they should have taped it, and they should have had 2 experts to mediate a real raw discussion. They should have had one expert in sexual trauma, whether that is childhood sexual trauma and also adult sexual trauma, being essayed or raped or whatever the case may be. They should have had an expert in sexual trauma. They also should have had an expert in racial trauma, because I see a lot of people out here talking about colorism and this and that. There needs to be an expert to break down the difference. There's a difference between racism. There's a difference between anti-Blackness. There's a difference between colorism. There's a difference between featureism. There's obvious intersectionality of these things where they intersect, but they are also fundamentally different. And they're all being confounded in what they're talking about. And it's different. I think they should have had an expert in that space. And I think the women should have came on and there should have been a real conversation around all of it. I think that a lot of topics are being conflated and converged where there shouldn't be. Number one, Brynn. I am not by any means defending Brynn. I don't think she's right. I am by no means defending Ubah. I don't think she's right either. I think that these are two very wounded women who are acting out, but I don't think either of them are right. And neither of them have anybody in their lives who is truly holding both of these women accountable for two different things. Their poor behavior are being conflated because of that one climax where Brynn's like, I was, sexually assaulted and she knew when she said this to me. So now everything's being conflated into one big episode when there's actually so many different nuanced things going on in this situation. Okay. Number one, Brynn is a very unwell person. I am not saying that disrespectfully. I'm not saying that as a joke or a dig. I'm saying that out of genuine concern. I'm being 100%. This is a very unwell person. She has talked about when she was a child, how she was neglected, how she was in dirty diapers for days and until someone found her. I think that there's even way more in her childhood of neglect, probably abuse. I'm not going to say what type of abuse. It could be neglect, verbal, mental, physical, sexual. I don't know. That's her story to tell. But this is clearly an unwell woman who learned how to probably survive as a child with a lot of shame, with a lot of disassociation, a lot of delusion, a lot of, making things up and maybe creating a persona of herself because of so much trauma she's had. And again, I'm not by any means saying that, elaborating on stories and making up stuff and lying on people and stirring the pot. I'm not saying that makes up for it, but I do wish they had an honest conversation about where this behavior comes from. She's a very unwell person doing all of these things. I also think Brynn effed around and found out producers are not your friends. I personally think Brynn, in her mind, thought she was the producer's pet, that they loved her, that they were cool, that she was, stirring the pot, creating storylines, creating drama. And I think she thought in her head she was doing her job. That's what I really do. I really think in her head, she really thought she was doing something. You saw it when she would talk to Rebecca. Well, Rebecca, then you could say, well, I'm Rebecca Minkoff and I'm wearing this and like my stuff is here and blah, 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 blah. And you could see it in like the recycled, shade she would throw. Oh, that's at Nordstrom's rack. And like very contrived, very childish, childlike. I really think that, and I'm sure the producers were egging her on. And in her mind, I think she really thought she was doing the damn thing. I think she thought she was the breakout star. She was stirring the pot. She was playing her role and she was doing the damn thing. I really think in Brynn's mind, that's what she thought. I think the producers played the hell out of her because as you see in the edits, as you see in the flashbacks, they are giving her zero grace and they know exactly what is going on. And remember, editing is retroactive. They're not editing as they go along the season. They film everything and then they edit the season in order to create a story or a narrative, which is why sometimes on these shows, they show you scenes out of order. They're like, oh, we went back and filmed that to make the story make sense. So after everything went down, they went back and gave Brynn that edit. I think Brynn thought the producers were her friends and she was doing the damn thing. And they're not your friends, boo-boo. They played the hell out of you. Because I really think in her mind, in her head, she thought she was doing it. So again, I'm not excusing Brynn, exaggerating stories and lying and stirring the pot and I'm not excusing that. But I do think, like, I do agree with Sai. I think that Brynn grew up lying. Brynn grew up in a fantasy to escape the hell she was actually living in. And when you don't get true help, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but a lot of people live in shame, which is why they lie and which is why they pretend in order to not feel the shame. You become people like Brynn who sabotage themselves, who lie, who deflect, who do all of that stuff. So I'm not saying what she did was right, but I have compassion for where it's coming from. Now with Ubah, I also think Ubah is a very wounded person. I think she is, in my opinion, I think she's a very nasty and rude person. I think she's very reactive. And I think she's very toxic. But then she uses the guise of, well, I just say it to you straight and direct. Well, yeah, but you're still an asshole. Ubah's a nasty person. She really is. She says a lot of mean things to people. And everybody on that show, she basically had them punked. Raquel was in shambles, not able to talk to her without Sai coming in to like mediate the situation, unable to have a conversation with Ubah, because the moment you say anything to Ubah, she flies off the deep end. She's talking about this, she's talking about that, she's yelling, she's screaming, she's telling you to shut up, she's deflecting, she's doing all of this stuff. She's also deeply unwell. You can be direct. You can stand up for yourself. You can be confident, but that doesn't mean you have the right to be mean and cruel to people. When she said to Brynn, oh, you slept with someone to get this job, Ubah didn't because Ubah is enough, that is deeply coded. That is deeply, deeply coded. And if you have any level of self-awareness, if you've done any work on yourself, you know that that hits the core of someone who struggles with low self-esteem, low self-worth, which we all know Brynn does. We know her history as a child. Even if you don't have big traumatic childhood trauma, it's obvious that Brynn is unwell and is dealing with things. It is obvious that she deals with self-worth. And to be like, Ubah is enough, that was very coded and that was very, very sharp to the heart with someone, regardless if she remembered Brynn telling her that she was, assaulted or not. Knowing someone struggling with their identity and who they are and sense of self, that is a very deep wound to say. And Ubah is nasty. She threw water at Aaron, did that. Could you imagine if the tables were turned? If Aaron threw water at Ubah, could you imagine the storm that would be? And then last season, when she snatched Aaron's shades off of her face, what if Brynn snatched shades off of Ubah? Could you imagine? Whoa, that would be such an uproar. She's a nasty person. She is. And she takes zero accountability. Zero. And then when it comes to the question of anti-Blackness and colorism, again, which are two separate things. Yes, they have intersectionality, which means that they have overlap, but they are two separate things. What is going on between Ubah and Brynn when it comes to the question of angry Black woman and Oliver? That's anti-Blackness. That's not colorism. So let's talk about the anti-Blackness of it all. In my personal opinion, I think Ubah shares the same exact mindset about not wanting to be presented as an angry Black woman because she's fearful that Oliver will not want to be with her anymore, that Brynn has. She shares the same exact mindset. I don't think that was hurtful to her. I don't think that she was like, oh my God, Brynn is being so colorist towards me or Brynn's being so anti-Black for me. I think Ubah agreed with Brynn and was shook. Go back to where this all started in the beginning of the season when the girls, I think they were in Hamptons or Aaron's house, whatever it was, whatever the case may be, and Ubah and Brynn were fighting the way they always are. And then they had the conversation off camera with Aaron, Ubah, and Brynn about the whole Brynn being like, hey girl, like listen, like I just want you to calm down. Don't be so reactive because Oliver's gonna see this and I don't want him to think like, oh, you're ghetto or too black or too loud, whatever the words were. I don't know, paraphrasing, but you understand what I'm saying. And then not want to marry you because you are presenting as stereotypical black. You're not assimilated. You're not, acceptable black. And then you see Ubah come in the next scene. Now that we know that conversation has happened, she's smiling, she's laughing, she's like, hey Brynn, we're good. I forgive you, you forgive me, we're good. She's smiling, she's laughing, she's putting on this effect, very performative. And then she's like, I was only acting like all of that because of Brynn. Brynn, it was you. You did that to me and you made me react like that. Other than that, I'm not like that. And that's when Brynn was like, really? You're blaming this on me? Like, how is this my fault? I clocked it then. I think Ubah shares the same exact sentiment. And then that my feelings about that was confirmed. Go back and watch the season finale. Again, I watched the Peacock extended version. I don't know what they're sharing on Bravo. I watched the Peacock extended version. Raquel confirmed this. In her confessional, it's at the very end. Raquel said, yeah, I don't know if I'm naive or she said she didn't know if she was gullible or naive or if she was being manipulated, like some type of language like that. She was like, yeah, because on the plane back home, all Ubah was worried about was, I hope Oliver doesn't think I'm crazy like Brynn. That right there shows you Ubah didn't give a damn about whether or not Brynn was raped. She didn't give a damn about what she said to her, if she knew or not. She only cared about if how she was being portrayed would be acceptable to Oliver, which is crazy because that is exactly what Brynn said in the beginning of the season. So when it comes to the whole anti-blackness of it all, there is the mindset and the belief of, well, you can be the acceptable black girl. You look like this, you talk like this, you act like this, but you can't do the stereotype or whatever it is. That's anti-blackness. Or if someone who is not black, but they have black stereotypes, like a Kardashian, the big butt, the big lips, and all of a sudden it's glorified and it's, coveted, and all of those things. Think about like Angelina Jolie. She has these huge, beautiful lips and she's sexy and gorgeous. But then you see a black woman with the same exact lips, which is very natural. And all of a sudden you look like a gorilla, you look this, you look that. All of the, don't act like that, don't look like that. Obviously, there's intersectionality of racism. There's intersectionality of colorism, but it's also at its core anti-black as well. Don't present to black on black. Then it becomes a problem. So Ubah acting all of fit. And also the reason I have an issue with Ubah at the very end is, and again, I'm not defending Brynn. I'm not saying that her embellishing, exaggerating, lying, whatever you want to call it, about Ubah knowing or not knowing that she was raped and saying, oh, you had sex for this, knowing the context of everything that happened on Jeff Lewis. Jeff Lewis was out here calling Brynn a prostitute, basically saying she's a kept woman. She's putting out to get money. He called her a prostitute. Let's call a thing. And so she's coming off of that whole backlash of Jeff Lewis basically trying to put her out there like that, and how she responded to all of that, knowing how much that hurt her. And then to go on and say that, it's not nice. It's not a nice thing. And I'm not sticking up for Brynn's behavior either, but I'm also not going to just bash her and crucify her without looking at the bigger picture in its totality. And I'm not saying Ubah is the only villain, but I also don't think Ubah is a victim by any means at all. Okay, so where was I going with that? I got off on a tangent. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so that's right. So then when everyone is sort of in their own trauma response and shock, right? With everything going on, the women are crying. Oh my God, Brynn is talking about being raped and Ubah saying all this stuff. Ubah's response in that moment told me exactly what I thought. She goes and calls Brynn a bitch. She goes, you B, you this, how dare you? And it's very performative. It's very big. She's shaking, she's crying, she's calling her a B, all of these things. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the problem because I'm just thinking about how I would react in that situation. So let me just say, this is how I would react. And maybe it's not fair to assume everybody would react the way you do. Maybe I'm open to that. Hey, but in me, if I was in that situation and I'm Ubah and I am pissed at Brynn, we've been fighting, we've been going at it, it's going da 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 all season, whatever the case may be, we're pissed, we're going at it. The moment I hear that she says she was graped, all of that to me would dissipate. All of that to me would go away. And I would be like, wait a minute, what? Are you okay? What happened? You know, the cameras were down, the mics were off. There is no, you know what I mean? I would have been like, wait a minute, like woman to woman, girl to girl, like, like let's stick a fork in all of this stuff we going on. But like, girl, are you okay? What's up? And I would be like, oh my God, I had no idea you said that. I am so sorry. If I knew that, of course, like, if I knew that, I never would have said that to you ever. What happened? Are you okay? Like, of course, I didn't know. We never talked about it. When did this happen? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe normal people in that situation shows compassion to everyone but the person who just said that they were graped. Ubah was doing the absolute most to convince Jenna and Jessel and Sai and Raquel and all that she didn't do it. But when it comes to Brynn, who you claim to still love and be friends with, even though you guys fight, who's the actual victim of the essay, you want to call her a bitch. To me, no. And again, that's why I really think Ubah's a very nasty person. Because if Brynn said that to me, she's like, oh, Candy knew I was graped. Candy knew it. And she said, oh, you slept with someone to get this job. And how dare she do that? I would not be like, oh my gosh, you bitch. I would be like, what? Are you crazy? Like, no, I had no idea. Are you okay? Like, talk to me. Like, what happened? I need you to talk to me. My response to that person would not be anger. But the only reaction Ubah had to Brynn was anger. But she was very compassionate, very compelling to everybody else, because like Raquel said, the only thing Ubah was actually concerned about was, what is this going to look like to Oliver? And to me, that was pretty disgusting. So yeah, I wish Bravo would have had an expert to come in of sexual trauma, an expert on the intersectionality of anti-Blackness, of racism, of colorism, to come in and to talk to all the women, to really get everything on the table, rather than make this whole situation so performative. And, I don't respect any of the women anymore. I don't respect any of them. Brynn is unwell. I'm not making excuses for her situation, but you can look at her and you see it's a person struggling. How come nobody is saying to Brynn, we know you messed up. You need to get some help. Are you talking to someone? What's going on with group therapy? Do you have a therapist? Are you actually getting help? Brynn comes out with this very tone-deaf, bizarre, more of the same regurgitation Rolling Stone article, of course, because she's not getting the actual help that she needs. No one's holding Brynn accountable to get help. Also, no one's holding Ubah accountable to also get help, because her attitude is nasty as hell. She's a nasty person. I don't care what anybody says. She's nasty. She is. And she does her dirt too. She talked about Aaron like a dog all season, but then pretends to be Aaron's friend in her face. Ubah and Aaron are not friends. I think Aaron is scared of Ubah, and I think Ubah just uses Aaron. I don't think that's a true friendship. Everybody tiptoes around her because they're scared when she's gonna pop off. And I think she holds the same exact anti-Black mindset because a lot of Black people have internalized racism, has internalized colorism, has internalized anti-Blackness. You can't live in this world where it's so insidious and not have it. It's very insidious. A lot of it is it's unconscious as well. You don't even know you're doing it. Code switching, all of that. I'm not saying it's right or fair. I'm just saying that's the world that we live in and we're working towards change. But I don't even want to get on politics because that's a whole nother situation. I don't even want to go there with that. So I think that I think the whole situation, if Bravo was going to actually go there with this, and air this, I think that they had the responsibility to clean it up. And clearly they don't because they look at the women as disposable, that they can use the women, dispose of them. And to me, I thought it was a missed opportunity. If you're going to take it there, show all these dark things, then be responsible enough to clean it up, have the real conversations. And all the women on the show, I'm going to be honest with you, I think are team Ubah and shunning Brynn. And again, I'm not saying Brynn is correct. I'm not co-signing her lies. I think she kind of lives in a delusional la land, and I think she needs some deep help. But I also think a lot of people are scared of being labeled racist. They're scared of being labeled colorist. They're scared of being labeled any of those things if they are honest about the behavior of someone who is darker skinned. And I've had this happen to me. Anytime I have a criticism or a thought about someone who's darker, oh, well, you're just light skinned, blah, 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 blah. No, I feel about Ubah because of Ubah's personality and the way she treats people. To me, I think Ubah is gorgeous. She is beautiful. Her skin is immaculate. It has nothing to do with her skin tone. Nothing at all. Brynn is very, very light, white passing, some people say. And I take issue with her behavior. I don't give Brynn a pass just because she's light-skinned. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think the climate we're in, it's really hard to provide feedback or have an opinion or anything because we're so fearful of it, which then in turn makes it harder to call it out when it really does happen. Then you get what happens in Beverly Hills when Garcelle, who by every right and is 100% correct when she calls out Dorit having her microaggressions and macroaggressions and straight up aggressions against her, then all of a sudden, oh, Garcelle's playing the race card again. Oh, you can't say anything to Garcelle. She's going to pull the Black girl race card. It's a difficult space to be in. How do you be honest? How do you give feedback? How do you critique when if it's not, quote, woke, you get labeled as something? But then if you're being honest about the situation, because I do think Dorit gives a lot of racially inappropriate aggressions toward Garcelle, 1000%. Garcelle is 100% correct. Along with Diana Jenkins, Lisa Rinna, all of them were doing that to her and her child. But when she speaks up, oh, you're playing the race card. It's a hard climate to be in, which is, again, why I'm very disappointed in Bravo. If you are going to bring up these very triggering big things like anti-Blackness, like colorism, like racism, like sexual assault, like rape, you better be in a position to heal as well. You can't just wound without healing. And that's kind of where I land on that. And that kind of brings me to, let me talk about Paige and Brynn. Okay, Paige and Brynn. To lighten the mood a little bit. The reason why I said Paige is what I ordered versus Brynn is what I got, because to me, Paige and Brynn give very similar energies in the sense of they want to be little entrepreneurs, fashion girls, very airy. I'm too cool. I'm this, I'm that. They're also very much in the space of being producer pets. You know, I heard on the street, alleged, maybe I'm wrong, but the only reason why Paige got her spot on Summer House was because she was friends with the producers, and the producers got her in. You know what I mean? And Paige also does nothing, in my opinion, for the show. She just sits in bed. She criticizes people. I don't think she really brings that much to the show, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, she gets to keep her job and she keeps coming back. And even though I think Paige is very much a mean girl and is very nasty and rude, she always gets a very favorable edit because she's bosom buddies with the producers. And the reason why I'm comparing these two is because I think that in Brynn's mind, again, I do think Brynn needs a lot of help. I think in her mind, she was a Paige. She was the producer's pet. She was going to get a favorable edit. She was doing the job and showing up, and she was just being Brynn, you know? So I think in Brynn's mind, she was a Paige, but she's not, which is kind of, and there you go. Now let's talk about Salt Lake City. Okay. Salt Lake City. Yikes. Yikes, 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 yikes. Again, Bronwyn to me is a very unwell person. Not as unwell, well, I don't know, maybe as unwell as Brynn. But again, people who lie, make up stories, and then blame other people, same energy. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Bronwyn, I don't understand what goes through her peanut brain. She leaked these DMs from the sibling. People were saying it was the sister. So I'll just say sister, but I'm not sure. The sister of her deceased ex-boyfriend, who is the father of her daughter, Gwen, leaked private DMs from the sister of the dead ex-boyfriend regarding their daughter. This is how sick Bronwyn is, and how sick she and how obsessed with Lisa Barlow she is. She was trying to say, oh, these DMs prove that Lisa Barlow is lying, that the grandparents are lying, that this is all Lisa's fault. Turns out the DMs actually prove Bronwyn was lying and Lisa Barlow and the grandparents were telling the truth. I think I actually have it. Let me see. Okay, here it is. It's on the left or right-hand side. It says, Bronwyn, I'm sure you are just as surprised to hear from me as I am surprised to find myself writing this letter. I've again recently become aware my late brother may have a child. I have since spoken with my parents and have allowed time to earnestly ponder and pray, knowing the best approach to take. Myself as well as my family felt that I should be the one to contact you. I cannot claim this is my first time hearing this, nor do I claim it is my parents. Okay, Bronwyn, you leaked this from 2015 when your daughter was around 9 years old. Did you not say yourself that the day your daughter was born, your father called the grandparents and left a voicemail, and at the reunion you said you were still waiting for a call back? So that's a lie, because you just posted the receipts that the family has reached out to you regarding Gwen to find out if she really is his child. So you lied about that. You lied on the grandparents. And then you also lied on Lisa. You said that Lisa said you faked a miscarriage. That's a lie. Because when they showed what Lisa actually said, what she said was that the grandparents told her that they heard that she had a miscarriage, not that she faked one. And these DMs that the sister sent you proves it. She's like, well, we don't know. We've heard that there is one, that there isn't, which to me means they probably thought there was a miscarriage. Then, gossip rumors go around. No, Gwen is the kids, this, that, and the third, whatever. And they're like, we have this rumor going out, what's good? Like, we want to know, probably want to do a DNA test. That's me inserting my opinion in there, just to see what the deal is. So, Bronwyn, you literally outed yourself as a liar. So basically, you're admitting that you faked a miscarriage, and that the father's family has been reaching out to you to find out if they can connect with Gwen and figure out what the situation is. So you trying to expose Lisa, you exposed yourself, sweetheart. Because am I wrong? But didn't all season long and even on the reunion, Bronwyn kept saying they've never reached out. We haven't heard from them. They wanted nothing to do with me and Gwen this whole time. My dad sent a voicemail when she was born, still waiting to hear back. They've never wanted to be in her life, blah, 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 blah. Well, you just provided the receipts that all of that was a lie. And we talked about this on the other live where I was like, there's always two sides. Well, three sides. Their side, your side, the actual truth, the absolute truth, right? There's always more than one side to a story. And I was like, I don't buy it. Because there was nothing in me that believed that unless these people are truly diabolical and evil, which I didn't think that they were, unless these people are truly diabolical and evil, I think parents and siblings of someone who has died so young would want to connect with that person's child. And the fact that she had the audacity to share the private DMs of someone who's talking about their dead brother and their child's dead son, like that is just so sick. Like, Bronwyn, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You're crazy, boo-boo. And then also, the whole $4 million necklace thing. So on the show, you were fronting like your husband bought you a $4 million necklace. Then when you got called out, all of a sudden, oh no, it wasn't the necklace itself. It was a smaller one. And then all of a sudden the truth came out. You didn't buy any of the jewelry. So you told a $4 million lie. But yet Lisa's the liar. She's the bad guy. Girl, bye. There is something not right. There is a fly in the buttermilk. Something is wrong. Number one, you're on camera lying about buying a $4 million necklace. Then you have this mansion of a house that is unfurnished except for dog poop. Then you're lying and saying that you're wearing one of 3 heart-shaped, sweaters only you and the Smithsonian and Rihanna have. That turned out to be a lie because Raquel was rocking one the other day. So something isn't adding up. If you have all of this money, why don't you have furniture in your house? If you have all of this money, why don't you own one Poopa Scooper? You don't have staff? I'm telling you right now, when I have my millions, gazillions of dollars, you're damn right I'm going to have staff. You don't have someone to clean up the dog poop? And to be very clear, this is by no means to be disrespectful to housekeepers or staffs or hospitality. Like, obviously, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean by any means. I'm not being disrespectful to that at all. All I am saying is normally people with that much money have help. Normally, people with that much money do not have a mansion full of dog crap without having any type of furniture. And normally people don't get on international television and lie about purchasing a $4 million necklace. Now that we're on the topic, Andy Cohen and his whole team needs to be fired. I'm sick of them and I'm tired of them. If you watched part 1 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion, Andy needs to go. His whole team needs to go. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't do their research, and I'm tired of it. let's stay on the necklace, and then I'll tell, and then I'll tell you the other part about it. Why in the moment when, because remember, before they had the conversation about the necklace, because this is important, they had the conversation about the rumor, which turned out to be a lie, that Lisa's G-Wagon was repossessed, right? Angie posted it on Twitter or something like, "Oh, I heard your G-Wagon's being repossessed." And Lisa clapped back and was like, "Actually, it's not. It's like, it's right next to my Porsche. It's right in the driveway. It's here. Where did you hear that from?" Um, you know, and Angie's like, "Oh, I heard it from Bronwyn." And Bronwyn's like, "Oh my God, like strangers just DM me like the craziest things. Like, I really like wish they wouldn't. Like, I wish these people just like wouldn't DM me all these horrible things about Lisa. Like, why did they do that?" And like I shared it with Angie, and she's the one who posted it. If you have a problem with someone, it should be with her. Like, Bronwyn, shut up. 1 second, you guys. Sorry, I had to drink some tea. So let me get this straight, Bronwyn. You get these DMs about Lisa. You share that, you give the ammunition to Angie, knowing that Angie is going to go and post it and talk about it, because all you guys do, by guys, I mean Whitney, Bronwyn, and Angie, apparently all they have to do with their time is talk about Lisa. She stays in their mind rent-free all day, every day. You know Angie's going to go and use this, which she does, and you act like your hands are clean and nobody says anything? Nothing. But yet, when literally the next conversation, when Lisa's like, "Yeah, Emma, who works for the jeweler, who I know, texted me and said you didn't pay for anything," and she was really frustrated. All of a sudden, Angie, Captain Lisa Barlow hater, why was she texting you? Oh, that's so unprofessional. Why would she do that? Yeah, you guys, why would they do that? What in the hypocrisy is this? So it's totally fine for a stranger, alleged, because I have a half a mind that a lot of stuff they say people DM them are stuff that they make up themselves, and they lie and say it's somebody DMing them. You know how like articles are like, according to a source, and there's no source, right? Or the source is like the PR person. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. So you're telling me it's okay for a stranger to DM Bronwyn with a obvious lie about Lisa and have Angie post that to the world and have that not questioned at all, but somehow it is so questionable, it is so shady, it is so unfathomable that Emma, who knows Lisa, who knows Bronwyn, who literally works at the jeweler, to text on her actual phone Lisa the tea about the jewelry. All of a sudden, that's out of order and crazy. I'm so confused. Andy Cohen and the person who lives in your ear pod, because half of the time, what Andy is saying is coming from his assistant who's talking to him in his ear. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's why they need to be fired too. Nobody clocked that. They just let Angie run the show. Is that how Angie got to be next to Andy? Nobody was like, wait a minute, this is like the height of hypocrisy. So literally the conversation we just had, everybody's cool with Angie posting about Lisa from a stranger, but all of a sudden it's so absurd that somebody that Lisa actually knows is texting her about tea because it actually happened to her. She was telling Lisa her real experience. All of a sudden it's Lisa's fault. Miss me with that hypocritical bullcrap. That is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And also another reason why Andy needs to be fired and his team needs to be fired. When they were talking about Whitney and the Alibaba of it all, I am convinced that they are also Lisa Barlow haters. Because everyone's like, oh, bloggers shouldn't be biased. We can be biased. I'm just a person watching TV on my computer, talking to YouTube. I can be as biased all day. The people who should not be biased should be Andy Cohen and his team, but yet they seem to let people come for Lisa all the time. And the reason why I say this is another reason why they should be fired is when they were talking about Whitney and the Alibaba stuff. I was floored. And let me know if you caught this. They were like, oh, like Lisa brought it to the show and blah, 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 which wasn't 100% true, though. Lisa told Meredith off camera, and then Meredith brought it to the show on camera to Heather. So those are different things. Anyway, they're like, oh, just some, and this was what I hope you clocked. Andy's like, oh, well, it was just some random blogger, like of everything going on with the show and the ladies. It was just some random blogger who talked about it like no one would know. Excuse me, Andy, and the person in your ear? That quote, random blogger, her name is Dana Wilkie. Dana Wilkie, as in an ex-Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. How dare you? How dare you call Dana Wilkie a random blogger when she literally is part of the Bravo family? And if anybody, and I'm not even mad at Andy because it should actually be his team doing this type of research. If anybody on their team actually did a simple Google search and actually understood the trajectory of how this rumor got out, why the hell would they call Dana Wilkie a random blogger? To me, it's so much more interesting and fascinating that an ex-housewife who's now talking about the housewives is the one to spill the tea. That's like if you're at the reunion of Real Housewives of Orange County and they're talking about some rumor about Shannon Bedore that broke on, Kelly and Rick's YouTube channel. And Andy being like, some random blogger broke this story about Shannon selling fake stuff. Are you kidding me? The whole tea would be that it's Kelly, an ex-housewife. That right there showed me they are sloppy. They don't do their research. They have no idea what the hell is going on. And they obviously have it out for Lisa too. Because they were coming hard at Lisa. Like, it was just some random blogger. Blah, 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 blah. Like, actually, no, it wasn't. It was an ex-housewife. It wasn't a random blogger. Like that to me, it's like, if you are working for Bravo, if you are doing a reunion, if it's your job to write the questions and to have your pulse on what's happening with social media, do your damn job and at least know the very basics. The fact that you're calling Dana Wilkie a random blogger when she was on Beverly Hills just shows how incompetent you are. So I blame Andy and his team for such a piss poor job he does. Number one, he's never prepared. Never. You see him reading the cards in real time. That's not preparation. He doesn't know what questions he's asking. He doesn't know what the true dynamics are. He has no idea what the collective think about this. He's just not prepared. Sorry. He's just not prepared. And the people feeding him the questions, this also happens on Watch What Happens Live. A lot of times they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I am convinced Watch What Happens Live and the reunions, it's Andy Cohen and a team of unpaid interns. I think it's their internship for like Tish or something like that. This cannot be professional people. They can't. And I'm just going to be honest about my opinion. Don't ever ask me to come on Watch What Happens Live because I'm going to be honest about my opinion. And Andy Cohen might get his feelings hurt because it is what it is. They don't know what they're talking about half the time. And that's why he comes off tone deaf, ignorant, not asking the right questions. Like, remember what happened with the Beverly Hills reunion where Garcelle was literally almost in tears over the fact that Lisa Rinna and Erica Jane threw out her book in the trash, posted it on Instagram and laughing about it. And Andy's like, oh my God, Erica, you really took one for the team. Are you kidding me? You're cheering on Erica because she let people think she threw it out when Lisa Rinna was the one who threw it out and Garcelle is sitting over there about to cry. And then don't talk about what he did to Monique with Rohop. That was horrible, the way he treated Monique. Andy needs to go and his team needs to go because they don't know what they're talking about. And like I said before at the beginning of the video, Bravo loves to bring up these very big topics. Oh, it's so dark. Oh, it's crazy. We've never seen it before. But then they don't clean it up or heal anything. We're talking about people faking miscarriages. We're talking about people talking about being raped and racism and all of these things. And nothing, just fodder, nothing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Patty says they wouldn't pay Dana to use the clip, so they refused to mention her name. Thank you for that, Patty. But still, again, then to call her a random blogger is still disrespectful. Any way you slice it, whether they didn't know who she was or if they are being that petty to not mention her name, gross. Absolutely gross. So it's kind of where I land on that. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. And then I'll take your candy cane questions and comments. Yeah, I'll take your question and comments. Let's do that. Okay. Hey, Tay says, hi, Candy. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, Darren, what's up? Darren says, shame on you, Brynn. We were all rooting for you. Salt and Peppa says, Brynn is toxic. I don't like to say it, but she exhibits the same behavior of a foster child. Like, that's the thing, you know. She basically was brought up by her grandmother, you know, and even though that's still family, it does something to a child when they are sort of abandoned or neglected by their parents, whether it's a single parent or both parents. And I think what we see in Brynn is a very unwell, wounded person. And I also think what we see in Ubah is also a very nasty, wounded person too, for different reasons and manifesting in different ways. But I think they're both toxic and problematic. You know what I mean? So I agree. I think Brynn has a lot of abandonment issues and a lot going on. Darren Hood says, exactly, Candy. Thank you, sweetheart. Satin Peppa Natural says, I feel sorry for Brynn because she didn't get the counseling at a young age. Exactly. Tate says, Brynn is a nasty, evil, diabolical, vindictive person. Darren Hood says, I would love to see how it went down at the reunion because, baby, it looks fire. Satin Pepper says, 100%, they all left her to fall on the sword. Yep. Tate says, I blame the producers for ruining season 15 of Roni. Darren says, a lot was edited out from the season finale from what I saw. Exactly. Like, that's why I'm just like, oof. And again, I'm not excusing anybody's behavior. I'm not team Brynn. I'm not team Ubah. And I'm not excusing any of it. But I think that this was such an opportunity to really talk about some real stuff. You know, you have a woman who was standing there in tears talking about being raped, but at the same time being in such her own delusion that she's projecting that onto Ubah, saying Ubah knew in order, like, that's just a lot going on there. And then Ubah calling people bees and yelling and shaking and how dare you, I didn't know. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. Tay says, I think the Peacock and Bravo was the exact same, but I watched the Bravo version. I don't know because Peacock always has the, and I'm dropping the link in case anybody wants to come up. No pressure, but just in case anybody wants to share, you can share. Whether you agree or disagree, you can share. They always say Peacock has the extended version. Is that a lie just to get people on Peacock? Darren Hood says at Tay, yeah, because I was about to say something in the buttermilk and clean. Exactly. Tay says, Brynn did herself no favors in the Rolling Stone article. Did you read it? I saw bits and pieces of it. Like, I tried to rewatch the finale and I couldn't. It just made my stomach hurt. And then the Rolling Stone article, I was just like, I don't even want to go here. Again, with Brynn, of course she's not going to do herself favors because she hasn't gotten help. And that's my whole point is I don't look at Ubah's behavior and Brynn's behavior separately, and then Ubah and Brynn together as something is off with Ubah and something is off with Brynn individually. And then when you put these two women together, boom. Because I do think that there's some jealousy with Brynn. I think Brynn is very, very jealous of Ubah and her relationship with Oliver, because I think that's what Brynn wants. I think Brynn wants a rich white man to come and save her and scoop her away. That's what I think she wants. And that's what Ubah has. And so I do think there's a lot of jealousy when it comes to Brynn and Ubah. But I also think the reason why we're not going to get any growth from Brynn is because she isn't doing the internal work that has nothing to actually do with Ubah. It has to do with her own wounding, her own stuff. And I also think Ubah should probably talk to somebody, because how nasty she is and how explosive she is, there might be some stuff going on there with her too, because she's a very angry person. She's very angry. And as a Black woman, a part of not feeding into the angry Black woman stereotype is allowing us to be angry, and by calling it out when you see it. I don't think anybody who's being honest thinks that Ubah is not an angry person. She is. She's probably been through some stuff to be angry. And then at the end of the day, she's human, and she's allowed to be angry, and she's allowed to be who she is. But that doesn't mean you're allowed to hurt other people because you're hurt. And say, oh, I'm doing it because I'm reactive and I don't take it. No. You're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to hurt other people. You're allowed to be human, but that doesn't mean you're allowed to hurt other people. So a part of debunking the angry Black woman is allowing us to be angry and allowing our anger not to be weaponized against us. Like, ooh, you're angry, therefore you're not worthy of being married. No. I'm angry and I have a lot of things to be angry about. And I deserve to get help for this anger. I see two very wounded women, possibly for different reasons, and that wounding manifesting in different ways. One is very angry, one is disassociating and lying. Both are very hurt, in my opinion. Okay, Salt and Pepper Natural says, too many instances you'd think they'd have a team together already. Tay says, the poop needs to stop. Yup. Tay says, Todd is very controlling. Very controlling. And that's another thing. We'll find out on the next episode, but doesn't it turn out that like Brynn was lying about the whole cheating stuff? Or not Brynn, Bronwyn. See, this is what I think. I think Todd has cheated on Gwen. Not Gwen, on Bronwyn. Gwen's her daughter. I think that Todd has cheated on her. Again, my opinion. I'm not saying this is a fact. I think he has. Because I always squint at relationships where one of the partners are gone all the time. Like the traveling salesman. Something's up. I don't think that either one of them are going that long. You know, like something's up when like Meredith and Seth. Isn't her husband Seth? Whatever his name is. I don't know. You know what I mean? Hey, Salt and Pepper Natural. So to me, I think there always has to be something up with that. So I do think that Bronwyn has been cheated on, but I think that she's going to lie and say that she wasn't. So go ahead, Salt and Pepper, sound off.
Okay, I just wanted to comment on Brynn. You know, and it might be how they've edited her on the show, but she has come off just real, I hate to say it, kind of sexually aggressive. And she really didn't highlight her career, which is what we're used to seeing on Real Housewives of New York. Especially from the first, the original ladies, they really highlighted their careers, and we got to see them, what they did for a living and things. So, I mean, she can't really blame other people for thinking that, maybe she's one of these, what they call it, the sugar babies.
Yeah.
But she might have a sugar daddy because we're not seeing how she's able to afford living in New York. It's not, a cheap place to live. So what are you doing for work? What are you doing for a living? Um, and that guy that she keeps bringing on, the ex fiance that she's trying to have a child with, he's not having a child with her. I don't know what she was thinking on that one. He you know, I think that he cut it off with her. He ended things with her for a reason, seeing that toxic personality.
Yeah. Well, Brynn said she ended the engagement, but we also know Brynn does lie. So
Yeah,
she
because
could.
he's not calling her. She keeps calling him. And of course, hey, he's a young guy. Yeah, he wants to have some camera time.
Mhm.
Free advertising,
Yeah.
but it's
So,
not for her. He's not coming on camera for her.
yeah. And then I wanted to touch on your comment about how she's very sexually aggressive and she kind of has like the "I'm a sexy baby" act. I agreed because unfortunately in our society, you know, when women are sexual or own their sexuality, it's that automatic backlash of like, oh, you're loose, you're this, you're that, where it's like, well, no, maybe I'm just a woman who is like comfortable with my sexuality. So even in 2025, look at everything going on in the world. It's still dangerous for women to own their sexuality. People are going to call you names. They're going to call you a prostitute. They're going to call you a sugar baby. They're going to call you loose. They're going to call you fast. They're going to make all these judgments about you, when the reality is maybe that's just how you are. Maybe that's just how you're comfortable with. Brynn's like, so I think that's a hard position to be in when
Mhm.
you own who you are and you're not ashamed of it and this is who you are, and then having the world judge you for that. Like, we do still live in a very patriarchal system where a girl could be raped like Brynn was. Well, what were you wearing? How were you acting? Why did you go to his house? Like anybody has the right to violate you for any reason. No, it doesn't matter. You could walk into a guy's house butt naked, doesn't give them the right to grape you. And so I think that, which is again why I think Bravo should have brought professionals in to talk about this culture. We live in a grape culture where the woman is automatically re-victimized because the society we live in, it's the woman's fault. Well, what were you wearing? What did you say to him? How many drinks did you have? So it's I don't necessarily agree with that. And then also, like the sexy baby stuff, a lot of a lot of victims of childhood sexual trauma,
Mhm.
usually, or even especially when they're young women, sometimes they go two ways. If they haven't gotten help, they become hypersexual. One
Mhm.
sign of children, particularly who have been abused sexually, is they kind of act out these sexual ways, or they act very hypersexual. They become promiscuous or fast. It's actually a trauma response. And as we know, Brynn admitted that she was raped as an adult. Who knows what happened to her as a child? We already know she didn't come from a good childhood. She said when she was young, she was in dirty diapers for days until somebody found her. So imagine what has happened to this girl. So I think her whole sexy baby act, to me, I think that's a trauma response.
Yeah.
Some people who are raped, they become almost shut-ins, the opposite end. Usually it's an extreme. So like some people who have been assaulted, they don't go out. They overeat. Some people, like a lot, and that's another response of people who have been molested. They try to hide. They try to get big because they don't want to be desirable to their perpetrator, which we know it doesn't matter what you look like. A predator will get you if they want you because they're sick. They're very sick, and it's about
Right.
power and it's about abuse. So to me, when I look at Brynn, I look at a woman who is in a lot of pain. who's in a
Yeah.
lot of, and that's why I say she's unwell. And when I say that, I don't say that to be funny. I say that from a place of, I think she's been through a lot of trauma, a lot of sexual trauma. And I think a lot of her act is an act because inside she's really hurting. And so that's why I have a lot of compassion for her. I think a lot has probably happened to her, and she masked it in this like, I'm a sexy baby, and lying and do all this stuff because she's living in her own world of delusion, because in her mind it's safer to live there than probably to look at and to truly confront the reality of what has happened to her. And that's sort of where I go with
You know,
Brynn.
I do feel sorry for her,
Yeah.
like comment that she didn't have the counseling and treatment at a young age. I don't know if whether it was just not available to her, but usually it is available to kids. But if she was, immediately put, placed with her grandmother, then maybe not. Maybe she didn't get all that she needed. So her grandmother should have really been on the up and up, getting her
Yeah.
the counseling and help that she needed. But
And
I, she doesn't need to at this time. She does not need to be getting married and putting her children, any future children, through any trauma until she handles her own stuff.
100%. And also when you think about,
Already, I didn't realize that she's almost 40.
yeah,
Not really young. They have her, kind of portrayed on the show like she's in her 20s, but I'm like, man, she is really immature for her age.
again, because I think it's that trauma response. And when you talk about the grandmother, the abuse she went through is generational. They say it's a generational curse. The curse is really is generational trauma that never gets addressed. So it's like if she went to live with her grandmother, but she's still in the family system that created the trauma in the first place. So I'm sure the grandmother never got help. She never got her daughter help. Therefore, her daughter's
Yeah.
daughter, Brynn, never got help. So she's being raised by her grandmother, but that's the same family institution that created the dysfunction in the first place. And that's why, like, oh, our family is cursed, a generational curse. It's not really a curse. It's dysfunction and it's trauma that has never been actually healed, and that has never been actually dealt with. And so people then pass that on. Oh, you're just like your daddy. You're just like your mom. You're just like this person. Da, 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 da. This runs in our family. Secrecy, lies, abuse,
Hmm.
all of that. And so when somebody doesn't get the help and they stay in the place that made them sick, that is when you get people like Brynn, who has all of this potential. She's beautiful. She's smart, but yet she hasn't
Yeah.
really addressed these fundamental wounds inside of her. That's why when Ubah said, I didn't sleep with anybody, I'm Ubah, Ubah is enough, that hit me to my core, because I was like, damn, that is cold. That is some cold-hearted shit to say to somebody when you know the situation Brynn is in. But also, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
Ubah also, I think, is a very hurt person. I think they're in two different categories, but I don't think Ubah's all there. I think Ubah needs to check herself too. When you watch Ubah, she is very reactionary. She's very mean. She's very nasty. She
Yeah.
doesn't take any type of criticism whatsoever. She can say whatever the hell she wants to say to you. You say one thing to Ubah and she explodes. That is also a trauma response that she also needs to look at.
Yeah.
And the whole anti-Blackness, trust me, I'm a Black woman myself. I understand those tropes and mindsets that we get put into as Black women. You need to be the acceptable Black woman if you want this, this, and that. And Ubah has the same exact mindset that Brynn has. That's why she was acting like that, because she was like, oh, I'm acting like this because of Brynn and this, because she too did not want Oliver to think that she was presenting too Black. She too did not want to lose Oliver because she was acting like them.
And and this is what I have to say on this,
Yeah.
because you know what? You look at Bryn, you would not know that she had any Black ethnicity at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now as a Black person, I can tell by how she's built. You
Mm-hmm.
know, her shoulders, her broad shoulders and everything. Like I know that, okay, that she has some, you know, she has some black ethnicity in her.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at her, a white person would think that she's white.
Mm-hmm.
She's very white passing with the red hair, the
Mm-hmm.
freckles. I mean,
Freckles, yeah. Looks Irish,
looks
right?
like Wendy's. Yeah,
Right.
very
Mm-hmm.
Irish looking. So I really hated that episode where she, you know, she went in, and I think Aaron went in too,
Mm-hmm.
telling Ubah that, you know, you don't want to act, you know, to like an angry black woman. Oliver is not going to marry you. Excuse me, you don't think that Oliver knows that she's a black woman? If Oliver wanted to be with a white woman, he would be with a white woman. He's with Ubah because she is a black woman.
Yeah, but I
So
think
Ubah just needs to act like herself.
right. But I think that Uba has the same mindset that Bryn has. Because
Right.
because when if you go back and watch that episode, they talk about how Aaron, Uba, and Bryn had, just like you said, they had the off-camera conversation. And Bryn was saying to Uba, like, hey, like, I'm looking out for you. Like, I don't want them to edit you like the angry black woman. If you come across, that way, then Oliver is not going to want to marry you because you're not going to fit into his, like, pristine world. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
then you see the very next day, the very next scene, all of a sudden, Uba is completely different. She has a 180. She's like, hi, Bryn. Hey, girl. Everything is good. Yep, we're good. And the only reason why I acted like that was because of Bryn. It's her. She gets me to that place. That's not who I really am. It's her. And then you see on Bryn's face, I forgot what episode it was, maybe episode 2 or 3. It was the very beginning of the season. Bryn's like, oh, you're blaming me for all of this? Like, girl, bye. And then but it was so weird because then all of the viewers were like, Uba must have been so hurt because Bryn was saying she was an angry black. Uba wasn't hurt. Uba was like, hey girl, thanks for the heads up. Now I'm gonna go and change the narrative because I agree with you. I don't want to come across as too black because I want to keep my man. And then the reason why this was confirmed, because I clocked that. I was like, Uba switched up. And this was confirmed on the finale. It's at the very, very end in Raquel's confessional. She says, I don't know if I'm being manipulated or I don't know if I'm too gullible, but Uba on the plane ride back was only concerned about, I don't want Oliver to think I'm crazy like Bryn. So she shares the same exact mindset that Bryn does. She
Yes.
doesn't want to come across a certain way because she doesn't want Oliver to think she's too much like them, aka the real black people, that she will no longer be acceptable for his world. She has the same exact mindset. And that is anti-blackness, and it's also and it's also internalized racism. Because there is that internal racism where you do think, okay, well, I don't want to act this way or that way because then I won't be accepted. I won't be this, I won't be that. And it's to nobody's fault. It's not like, I don't think Bryn is a bad person. I don't think Uba is a bad person. It's just indicative of the world that we have grown up in and that we live in, where it is so institutionalized, it is so insidious, you don't even realize you're doing it, where we live in a world of white privilege. And you think in order to be a part of that world, a part of that privilege, you need to assimilate. Doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't make you a self-hater. It just makes you a product, unfortunately, of the societal institutions and mindset and belief systems, messed up or not, that we have all grown up in. And it's our job to unlearn and to retrain and to undo. But I think it does everybody a disservice just to villainize people for talking about the mindset that they were indoctrinated. And it doesn't even have to be anti-black. We were talking about Bryn being over sexualized. You want people to think you're a good girl, right? Good girls don't dress like this. Good girls don't talk about this. Good girls don't do that. You want to be a good girl, right? You want to be a girl a man wants to bring home to mom. You want to be blah, 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 blah. That's still patriarchy. That's still conditioning. That's still society telling you what to be, religion telling you what to be. You want to be looked at a certain way, don't you? Oh my God, Brynn, you're talking about this and that. Well, you must be a slut. You must put out. You must have sex for money. You must be this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And even though we have those mindsets, it doesn't make us bad people. It makes us products of the systems that we have been brought up in. But if Ubah wants to be honest, she had the same exact mindset that Brynn had. And Raquel told it at the end. Doesn't make her a bad person. It makes her a product of this world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with it. I just, I really hate that she let Brynn get into her head and that going down that avenue of thinking, and
Yeah.
I guess, and maybe this is like the first white guy that Ubah has dated or whatever. Maybe she doesn't,
Yeah.
and so she's probably already thinking, oh, okay, well, this is different. Maybe he wants me to act like this and this and that. But just all the young ladies out there, because I grew up in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
I've dated Chinese guys. I've dated Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Dated Latino guys. I've dated white guys.
Mm-hmm.
I've dated everybody. Okay, the rainbow.
Yeah.
And be yourself. Be your authentic self. That
Mm-hmm.
is the reason why they're dating you.
Yep. 100%. And a lot of times and to your point, I agree. A lot of times it's our own internal,
Issue.
anti-usness that we are projecting onto other people. Because I do think that Oliver just loves Ubah for Ubah, black, white, whatever. I think he just like loves her for her. But because we've been taught you need to be this way, you need to be that way, that's the stuff we bring to it, to the relationship where you're right, just be yourself. But and that's another reason why I thought Ubah's comment was so like, ugh, when she was like, I don't sleep with people because Ubah's enough. That to me was so nasty because that speaks to the core of what all of these problems are, of the low self-esteem, of the not feeling good enough, of the not feeling valuable, of the not feeling worthy, of feeling broken or unfixable or unlovable. And that to me goes to the core of it. And I think if Ubah is being honest with herself, I think she does a lot of posturing. I don't think she's as confident as she says she is on all this stuff. And I don't think her relationship is as perfect as she says it is. Like,
No,
I think
I don't think so either.
there's something going in there. And again, I'm not age shaming anybody. Miracles happen. But I don't think, oh no, wait, that's somebody else I'm thinking about. But I also think Ubah's lying about her age. I don't think Ubah's in her 30s. I think Ubah's closer to 50.
Me too.
I think like when she was like, gonna be 40, I was like, you saw 40 like 10 years ago. I know black girl. You and your cousin Chanel, y'all are 50. Stop lying. And that's why again I was like up here talking about I want to have his baby, and that's why I was like, I'm not trying to age shame, but like you trying to pop out a baby at 50, stop lying to this man. Stop lying to
Mhm.
this man, girl. Just go on and adopt and be happy. Like, go on and adopt. Because Ubah is definitely pushing 50. I don't care
Yeah,
what she says.
you
And this
know,
is no shade to Ubah because I know I went kind of hard for her in this, but I actually really like her. And I think she's a good person. But just like Brynn, I also think Brynn is a good person too. I think that there's some stuff going on that they need to really look at and to really heal. And then they can step into their most elevated versions of themselves. Because to me, what was the most sickening was these are two beautiful women, smart women,
mhm.
successful women, gorgeous women, projecting their wounding onto each other. And that's really what we saw this entire season, was just these two women projecting their wounds onto each other. Ubah, you are this. Brynn, you are that. Ubah, you are this. Brynn, you are that. When they should have actually been the most allies to each other. But because they both are in their wounding, they can't get out of their own ways. And to me, that was sad. Like, I didn't find this season entertaining. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was fun. I didn't think it was tea or a kiki. I just saw two very hurt women emotionally bleeding all over the screen. And then the way Bravo just left it at the finale was disgusting. And now everyone's shunning Brynn when someone needs to go to her and be like, hey, girl, are you okay? Like, you were raped and you're doing all this weird stuff. These are all cries for help. You should probably get some real help. And again, that's why I said Ubah's response at the finale, I was like, ugh, like, stop, like, Ubah, just stop thinking about yourself for 1 second. I get it. You don't want Oliver to think that you were so mean to Brynn and you knew this, but like, he's your boyfriend. You can actually just call him and say, hey, baby, this is what happened. And you can talk to him. You don't need to sit up there and call Brynn a bitch and all these things when you look in Brynn's face and you see her brokenness. I don't know. Like, for me, I just can't look at somebody who I know is unwell and meet their unwellness with anger. I meet unwellness with compassion. And no matter how mad at her I would have been, the moment I heard that she was raped, to me, I would have said, oh my God, I am so sorry. If I had known, I would have never said that. Come here. Let me hug you. Let me talk to you. Let me hold you. What happened? Are you okay? Forget all this camera bullshit. Like, woman to woman, what is up? If a stranger told me that, I would have that reaction. Let alone somebody I'm acting like is my friend. If I was walking down the street and a stranger told me that she was raped, I would have nothing but compassion for that person. So that's why I'm just like, I don't know if we're watching the same show, but like, I'm just like, or like the lens the same way, because there's a lot of people out there that just has, again, I think a lot of people are also projecting their own stuff, where I like to look at things objectively and be like, well, in this situation, objectively, what do I actually see? Versus,
Right. And I think they said that, well, this might be, they might be putting the show on pause after this season.
I think they should. And I think they should fire Andy Cohen and his whole team.
They needed to a long time ago. And he looks like he's just so disconnected when he does these reunions. I'm like, well, did you watch the show? Well, what, it doesn't seem like he's really into it at all, in my opinion.
Agreed. And he's not prepared. Like, I'm so confused. Like, if I'm going to host anything, I'm going to read the notes before I'm sitting in front of the camera. And like, he's also unprofessional, because if you watch What Happens Live in the reunions, while he's like on camera and you're seeing everything, he's reading it and he's like, oh yeah, that's a good question. Like, he's actually being like, I haven't read or prepared for this, even though like I'm the host of this show. He's like, oh yeah, well, what about that? And it's just like, you didn't pick that question. You didn't prepare the question. You don't have a follow-up. You don't know context. Like, it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. I think Bravo is just keeping him around until all the lawsuits settle. And then once they're out the clear legally, I think they're going to let him go. But I think for them, from a legal standpoint, it wouldn't look good if they fired him during the lawsuits. It almost looks like an admission of guilt.
Guilt, yeah.
So they're going to stand by him until all the lawsuits get settled out. And then I think they're going to phase him out, because I think the head people are tired of him too.
Yeah, that's the same feeling I get.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Candy.
You
I'm so glad
too.
I finally, you know, able to call in.
Absolutely. And call in anytime. I appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom, and I just appreciate you. So call in anytime.
Right. Bye bye.
Bye, sweetheart. All right, you guys. There you have it. Those were pretty much my thoughts on what's going on with Ubah and Brynn and Bronwyn and let's see. Da, da, da. And Bronwyn and Lisa and everything, just sort of, the top level. But we talked about some pretty heavy things. So, everybody, just take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, do some self care, do what you have to do. And also going forward, try to look for the humanity in each other. Don't just look to judge or to kiki, but, look out for each other. So, with that, you guys, I absolutely love you. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share. We'll be back this week for Beverly Hills, more Salt Lake City, and Roni as well. We're going to get the first reunion. We're going to see what's going on with them. So, yeah, you guys, I love you, and be gentle with yourself. Take care of yourself. If you need any help or assistance with, any trauma you're going through, I don't have a hotline number, but Google it, look it up, reach out, get some help. Bravo has talked about a lot of very, very heavy things, from miscarriages to anti-Blackness to grape to a lot of stuff. So take care of yourself. And if you need support, please reach out. Please talk to someone. You're not alone. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. If something has happened to you, it is not your fault. And there is nothing to be ashamed of. And I love you guys. Take care of yourself. Mwah. Bye.